Welcome Home, a podcast for veterans about veterans by veterans, is a project of Willing Warriors and the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run.
Good morning. I'm your host, Larry Zoliax, Director of Culinary Services here at the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run. And this week, our guest is Todd Peters. He is the founder and president of an organization called the Stronghold Alliance, which is a faith-based restoration nonprofit that helps veterans get medical treatment and help with their PTS and TBI. And he's a former Navy SEAL, 26 years, and 13 years as a pastor with McLean Bible Church. And so, Todd, welcome to the podcast.
It's good to be here, Larry. Thanks for having me.
So, well, here's a question I always ask is, if you could have joined the Air Force, why did you join the Navy?
Good question. Well, way back in the mid-'80s, there was some big terrorism, and a Navy diver was shot and thrown off a plane named Steedham.
Yep.
And I did a little research. You and I went to school before the internet. So microfiche, I found one little paragraph about Navy SEALs, and it was like a Shackleton ad: low pay, doubtful return, and recognition upon success. So I was like, I'm in. And so that's what lured me to the Navy.
Wow. And so you signed up, you went in. Now, at that time, you didn't enter as a Navy SEAL. What was your job going to be? And then you got into the process of being a Navy SEAL.
Good question. So I actually went in to be a Navy SEAL, so I just had to check all the boxes. And back then, you had to become a rate in the Navy.
Right.
So of the 16 abbreviations they threw at me, the only one that made sense was corpsman to have some medical knowledge. So I went San Diego boot camp, San Diego corpsman school. Then I got to hang out with the Marines at Camp Pendleton until my BUDS class started. That's SEALs training.
Right.
And then away I went.
Wow. Okay. And 26 years. That's a long time. And what's going on with you at that point that says, okay, I'm in for 20, and then you get there and you say, okay, 26, it's time to get out. How did you get to that point in that decision?
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack in a short amount of time. But I think along the way, I went in with the intent to stay for 4. And I never had the ambition of making it a career.
Right.
I mean, I was a youth pastor. My wife thought she married a youth pastor, and I definitely threw her a curveball. Most of her family thought I worked at SeaWorld before all the books and the internet came out. And so that was fun. But every year or every enlistment, I would check in with her and just say, I think we're good. And she's like, I think we're good. And so I realized also the pastor part of me, it was almost like my own mission field. And certainly that was a secondary thing, but I enjoyed to be able to be there to care for the brotherhood in a different way as a pastor. And as we kept going, we thought we were going to retire in Kodiak, Alaska. I was teaching survival mountaineering up there. My wife loved it. My kids loved it. The church offered me to be the pastor there that we attended. And then even down south, they offered me to lead the SEAL detachment as a civilian, as a GS job. On paper, it was perfect. And it just was a resounding no from God, and I couldn't explain it. And then got orders to come out here and work with a buddy in Northern Virginia. And so did 6 more years. And after my 10th trip to Afghanistan, to answer your question, I felt like, you know what, I'm almost knocking on 50 and I'm getting tired. I think I'm done.
Wow.
So
that's a long time kicking doors, man.
Yeah. It was neat to be a part of the team, to lead teams at that level. But at some point you realize too, you just got to get out of the way because
it's a young man's game.
It really is. And I was past the young man stage in that community, at least. Yeah. It's all relative to who you hang out with, right?
I guess. Wow. Well, so you separate, and how did that go for you?
It actually went really well in that. So I had significant job offers, and I was excited about that. My wife was very excited. She started house shopping in Vienna. For those that aren't from around here, it was a really nice neighborhood. And then the day before I went to go shake hands with a business in Arlington, the pastor of McLean Bible Church, Lon Solomon, called me up with Dale Sutherland, who was the youth pastor, and said, hey, we'd like you to take over the youth ministry. At home, on a legal pad, I had 2 circles. One, teach the Bible, and the second one, work with teenagers. And I felt like God was like, I call your bluff. And so I told my wife, and we prayed about it. And then a week later, I accepted the position. And then I said, I don't think we'll be living in Vienna. We're going to need to go west. And so We headed west. And so the transition, the biggest thing that you and I know, and for the men and women out there, transition is hard.
It is.
But ultimately, we all want purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew what my purpose was going to be. I came from a broken home. And so I care about teenagers. And sadly, the odds in the church from coming from a broken home are the same as the world. So it's about 50%.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, I sync up with half the kids there.
Yeah.
So that's why I did that.
Well, it's definitely a calling because, I mean, you stepped away from a contractor position, which is in this neighborhood that's substantial, especially with your background, to a youth pastor, which from a salary standpoint isn't even close in the same neighborhood. So I get it. It's definitely a calling.
Yes.
That's awesome. So you're the youth pastor there, and then there comes a time when what happens? At what point do you say, we need something a little bit different, something more, and come up with the Stronghold Alliance?
Good question. There was one piece in between. After about 4 years of being the youth pastor, they sent me out here to Prince William to lead.
Yeah.
And so I was the location pastor out there for just shy of 10 years. And it was during those 10 years that multiple suicides just kept stacking up from my community in the SEAL teams. Certainly aware of other communities. Our son's a PJ, so I'm familiar with the Air Force, to your initial request. And so I maybe encouraged my own son to go to the Air Force, and he's loving his career there.
Sure.
But when you cross 3 digits of people you know that have taken their life, you realize this isn't a part-time problem. And so we created something as a stopgap, if you will, rally point gatherings that are, weekly peer gatherings, place to connect, to be cared for, and given courage to take the next right step towards your own healing. And so as I was doing that as a pastor, last July, so of 25, I read Nehemiah 1-3. And for those that aren't familiar with the story, Nehemiah found out that the walls in Jerusalem were torn down. He wept, he prayed, and then he sought God, and then he met before the king, and the king was like, hey, you look sad, which was a big deal back then, because if you make the king sad, he could kill you. And he said, what's on your heart, and what do you need? And so he told him, how can I be happy if the walls are torn down where I'm from, and I'd like to go? And the king was like, how much do you need, and how long will you be gone? And so I met with leadership that day after I read that, and the first thing they asked me was, what's on your heart? And so I didn't have a plan to resign that day, but that's what I did. And I said, I'll stay on board and I'll work my heart out until the end of the year to help get someone installed and take over. But I'm going to go full time towards this problem. I don't know what it looks like. And so in August, I formed the nonprofit, did a little research because you have to, it's hard to build a brand if you don't know if you own it. And so did all that. Stronghold made sense to me. There's plenty of scripture references. And it's also, I think, for veterans and first responders, they understand that language. And then what I shared with Sarah Ford from your organization and many others that I've worked with is the suicide problem is much bigger than any one nonprofit or even one church, but it's not too big for God. And so along the way, I've had the pleasure of meeting so many different groups and forming these alliances to tackle this problem about suicide.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of birthed the Stronghold Alliance.
And so tell us a little bit about the program itself. I know that from a clinical standpoint, you do a lot with hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and then it's peer group as well as the spiritual aspect of it too. So it's all combined into one particular program. But how did you come up with that and decide that you can't just do one for your organization and for the services that you provide? It needs to be a combination of things.
I think even just looking at how God made us, so you think about our body, we're supposed to be good stewards of it. Think about our mind, you think about our soul. I was actually a patient of hyperbaric oxygen. I had my own TBI. It manifested in chronic migraines. And so for 13 years as a pastor, I had 36 hours on of migraines and 8 hours off, like clockwork. And that 13th year, I ran out of gas. And I'd like to think I have fortitude, but I just ran out. I was depressed. God definitely broke me from the old adage, here's a can of suck it up, deal with it. I realized there's some things you can't suck up. So I was broken. That 13th year, it got very dark. Actually contemplated the things that you're not supposed to contemplate as a guy that has a great wife, great kids, great grandkids, and all these wonderful things. And the pain was too much.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped me understand a lot of these men I know, they very well could have been in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I've realized through a lot of study and doing my own counseling for people is that if you have a traumatic brain injury, you're kind of wasting your time going to professional counseling until you get your brain fixed. There's actually an order that matters, because it's kind of like going out and expecting your car to work when the battery cables aren't hooked up.
Mm.
The wires aren't touching upstairs. And until you get the inflammation reduced, the brain's not really going to understand. I could sit with you. You could be a phenomenal counselor, but I don't understand because my brain's not working. So we start with the chamber. I have a wonderful nurse named Jordan. She handles the intake. She screens them. She does the blood work. She also has a supplement package to reduce inflammation. She kind of programs the depth they go.
Mm-hmm.
But on average, they're doing 40 dives, and she does check-ins, every 10 dives or so to make sure they're doing all right and to see if we need to tweak the program. We're also doing something called a NeuroQuant MRI before and after. So what that does, if you're a patient, you get to see the volume of your brain before and after, and it changes significantly so far, and what we've seen in other studies.
Mm-hmm.
So that was helpful for my wife, because they call it an invisible wound for a problem or for a reason. You can't see it,
Mm-hmm.
and yet you're in so much pain.
Sure.
Well, my wife could see the scans and to see how damaged the brain was. It also helped confirm that I wasn't nuts, crazy, but then to see how it was restored and how you get that spark back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the body part. Along the way, one of the alliances we formed is it's called 1010 Life.
Right.
I met with David Steele, who also knows Sarah Ford in this organization.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, they're becoming part of our nonprofit. And so for the mind part, the nurse at the Reston facility, she can send someone straight for the professional counseling. I can refer them out. So we have that professional counseling arm. And then the relationship for the soul is those rally points. And we're slowly expanding those. We have 5 currently in the Nova area, and then we're expanding into Maryland. We have a few spots that we're looking at to train facilitators for DC, in conversations with Florida, Texas, North Carolina, and slowly expanding it out. And then what I've learned, just to wrap up the spiritual side, is, and I was a pastor, so I understand this, I've written several documents to help pastors understand. I'm not trying to compete with what you're doing. I'm trying to help you reach people that are in your space you're not reaching.
Mm-hmm.
So if anything, I'm just trying to help.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of pastors, because they'll come to me and they'll say, how do I reach veterans, or how do I reach first responders? I don't know their language.
Mm.
And that's what we've done, is we have these different devotionals that speak our language that people understand. Even tonight, they're meeting here locally. And, there'll be some hard discussions, but they feel safe and they can come clean. And since we started a year and a half ago, we've had 12 people not take their life. So to me, just one person at a time, but that's a huge win.
Sure. Anytime you can put the pause in that process, it is a huge win for not only the veteran, but their family, their friends, their battle buddies. A whole slew of people are better off because of that and the work that you're doing. Listeners, I just want to go back a little bit and explain to you that when Todd said 40 dives, he wasn't talking about throwing somebody in the ocean with scuba tanks. This hyperbaric chamber, it replicates that process, basically taking them as though they were down at certain atmospheres. And
that's right. It's pressurized oxygen.
Right.
And like for the listener, just look at your hand right now. And if you're a healthy adult, you perfuse 21% oxygen to your fingers and toes. And if you get a cut, look at that cut on your hand or your toes. That cut is about 10% oxygen. And so that angle from 21 to 10, they call the O2 gradient. And because it's steep, our bodies know to send white blood cells to go fight the infection. And so you don't have to give someone antibiotics. They just heal naturally because that's how our bodies are made. If you're a diabetic, type 1 or type 2, and you perfuse poorly to your fingers and toes and you get a cut, maybe you perfuse 12%, the cut's 10, it's not steep enough. Your body doesn't know that there's a wound there. I can give you antibiotics. It still doesn't know what to do. But if I put you in a chamber, now those fingers and toes become 100% saturated. It sees that cut at 10, super steep angle. All the white blood cells go there. You don't have to get a surgery to get amputated, and you continue on in your life much healthier.
Yeah.
That's just one of the modalities, the treatments that you can do with a chamber. And what we're doing is just treating the brain and reducing the inflammation and even repairing and actually growing new brain tissue. It's phenomenal.
So the chamber, that's not yours. You guys don't own that. That's a pretty expensive piece of equipment. There's not many around. You'll find them on the coast, of course, for dealing with divers who have issues. But so you guys are funding that. You're paying for that as part of the program. If I'm a veteran and have had ongoing issues with TBI and PTS, and I come to you and I want to be in this program, how much of it are you able to fund and help support me through that?
Good question. So currently, because we just started in January, we are treating people locally here in Northern Virginia because I don't have the funds to house somebody for 8 weeks.
Right.
But if you're a local veteran or first responder, we fund 100% of it.
Okay.
And so they're not paying anything out of their own pocket. And we've had some very generous donors, and we continue to find more. We're writing grants and learning the process.
Sure.
And if anything, this is a wonderful people group to help, right? There's a lot of men and women that care about our veterans and the first responders. And so, but that'll be continued. That's something I'm trying to get smart at because you deplete your piggy bank pretty quick when you start using expensive medical treatments.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, we live in an area that is, well, there's money here. You've got Loudoun, the #1 wealthiest county in the country. Fairfax, #3, Prince William, about 13. It's not easy to get. You got to work for it, but it's here. So along those lines, donors, I want to direct you, or I'm going to call you donors, listeners, I'm going to direct you to strongholdalliance.org. That's the webpage, strongholdalliance.org. Now, normally at this point, I say up in the right-hand corner is a red donate button, bang on it. But on this particular case, is not a donate button. It says stand with us. Okay, so you're not confused. I still want you to bang on it and give whatever you can. $5, $10, $15, 15,000, whatever you can. What does the treatment for this, a full course treatment for this cost you?
So right now, the whole package with the 40 treatments, with the MRIs before and after, the supplement package, and all the other wonderful things that they're doing there, we haven't broke 15,000. And to explain even what a wonderful deal that is, not just for Northern Virginia, but in America, I have friends that work in the hospitals around here. Just the 40 dives treatments is 50,000.
Yeah.
So they're very generous also in the price. I don't think they're probably just breaking even on us, but they care also. And so it's super cool to see how they're being generous as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people spend more on their pets.
Well, and it costs more just to get 2 Tylenol at the ER, right?
It's crazy. How many veterans have you guys been able to help?
Right now, we've had 10.
Nice.
So we've had one finished completely.
Right.
A friend of mine, actually, that was blown up with the SEAL teams on an operation. And his M4, which a lot of the listeners will know, that primary weapon, went through his chest. And he lived. But obviously, he was in a lot of pain. And he's like a new man. We have another guy that lost his leg, deployed multiple times after he got his cool robot leg. And he is like a new person. He's laughing. He's engaged in life. We have, and I guess think about HIPAA. I won't get into too many details, but we have first responders and veterans of all walks of life. And we even have a veteran that's a pastor that's getting treated and possibly will keep in ministry instead of him having to retire early because of just the chronic pain.
Sure. So
it's really exciting. My goal for the first year, was a little ambitious, but I think we're already headed there, is 15 people for this first year.
Right.
And so we have 10, and here it is, knocking on May.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there's still room for some. And what's the criteria? I mean, when you get an application, what's the criteria that you use to say, if you had 40 applications, you can't take them all. What are you looking for in that application to say, this is somebody we need to get into the program?
That's a really good question. So I have had people from out of the area that I've tried to help find them something else near where they live, just because, again, of the cost to house somebody. But for a veteran, we verify the DD-214, that we actually, in fact, are treating a veteran. They have to have a diagnosis of PTS or TBI. So those are things they have to provide to the clinic when they do their initial screening. And then what I do is I usually, myself or other people on the board, will do an intake call. And we try, if they're married, we want the spouse involved because a lot of times it's the spouse that finds the treatment option because the member is just too hurt to be able to process and to think. And so, especially with classic TBI, one of the things we sit down, though, and explain to them, and even the clinic reinforces this is a wonderful treatment, but you can outlive it. Meaning, if you're drinking 24 beers at night and you think this treatment's going to work, then we just say, hey, you save your time and save our money, and we're going to find somebody else. But if they're willing to get dry and they need help, we'll even help them do that. And so it's a combination of everything. But so far, we've only had a couple that were a little resistant because they're like, well, I read this or I read this article. I'm like, I did too, and I stepped in there and I'm just testifying. This is where I was at. This is where I'm at today. And I so believe in it that like I just stepped out on faith, hoping that I could treat other people so they could get the same results. And what we don't promise, of course, any results, but what we've seen so far, not just in our practice, but in all the other ones that implement hyperbaric oxygen, if let's say your baseline is 10%, it's going to move the needle to the right.
Yeah.
And so in my case, I was sitting at 5 and just about ready to run out of gas, and it swung me over to 95. And so, as you know, any good disclaimer, results will vary, but it's neat. And I think you get out of it what you put into it. Sure. And it's nice when you have someone in your corner, but if you don't, like that's where these rally points come in. We're in your corner. And so many of the people that are going through treatment actually attend those weekly gatherings also, just for that, again, that care. Because many of, especially when we talk about transitions, as you alluded to earlier, transitions are really hard. And this is a major one when you leave that. A lot of people, their identity was in that badge or that uniform. Yeah. And so to be something different is a huge step for them.
Now you got to find your tribe with it too. Yeah. So think back to the first veteran that you helped go through this program, and he got his treatment and started his treatment, and he came to you. What did that feel like for you?
It feels good to see that they're engaged and they're seeing the details again. Like this man that we're speaking about, he's like, hey, I think I'm going to watch my kid play flag football tonight instead of come to the rally point. I'm like, that's exactly what we're talking about. We're always here for you, but this is why we rebooted you, and that God's giving you a new lease on life. Go be with your son. Go be a dad. And so the same thing when you can see a marriage get repaired because the wires are touching again and they can actually understand and communicate with their spouse. It feels really good. I also realize I'm not doing any of this on my own. It's just a tremendous team effort. And it really is, without being a geek, there's a lot of heart behind the name. I just see all these alliances, like even here with you, right? Like this to me, and Sarah knows this, like I have your all's logo on my webpage. Like this is one of the alliances because we're working together. I mean, they hosted us and taught a moral injury class here, and it helped a lot of the men and women that attend. And so, yeah, it certainly makes me, just the pastor heart of me happy to see people have the hope, because I've sat alongside so many people that don't have it and different walks of life. And as you know, like it gets hard out there, and to know you're not alone. Yeah. And that someone cares about you, because that's the devil's lie, right? Yeah. So for every one of you listeners, the one thing that was taught to me that helped me in my dark days is if you're thinking about doing something horrible, realize the only thing you're going to do in the process is you're going to transfer your pain to the people that love you the most. Yeah. That's the end result. It never makes it better.
Yeah. And you never want to look for a permanent solution to a short-term problem.
Correct.
It really, reach out to Todd, to your battle buddies, to us here at the Warrior Retreat, there's so many organizations and so many people willing to help, that you're not alone is truly, it's real. And this is another example. The Stronghold Alliance is a great example of a team pulling together. And, Todd, I looked at the webpage and the board, and you've got a really good support. I mean, there's a lot of senior service members that spent time in, and they walk the walk, and they know what it is like. And they know how important tribe is. They know how important purpose is. And this program helps veterans get to a point where they can focus again on those two things, on purpose, whether it's just being with the family, whatever it is, helping other veterans. It could be any number of things. But when you have TBI and you can't remember what somebody told you yesterday, life is really hard and painful. And so, God bless you guys. Again, listeners, the webpage is strongholdalliance.org. Up there in that right-hand corner is the Stand With Us button. Donate. Give what you can. This is money that's going to go directly to help a veteran with this treatment and help them get their life back together. And hopefully they'll pay it forward. And just like you are paying it forward, and your whole team, everybody that works with you. So I really appreciate you coming out. I know we're sort of out in the country here, but I appreciate you coming out and sitting down with us and telling us all about this. And before I forget, I had heard a rumor that the new Secretary of the Navy needed help with a program, and you're going to step in and help them.
That's right. Yeah. The acting Secretary of the Navy, Hung Kao, is a dear friend. And Monday I start as a senior advisor role for mental health and suicide prevention for the Navy and the Marine Corps. Wow. And so I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to move the needle there too, because I'm tired of seeing the same stats every year. I know there's a lot of great men and women already tackling that problem. I just want to come in there and maybe, instead of being a clinician, just give them insight on what it's like to be one of the fellas.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I know you're going to make an impact in that role. So that's fantastic. So again, really, thank you for coming out. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure.
Listeners, we'll have another episode next Monday morning at 0500. You can find us on all the major platforms. You're on YouTube and Wreaths Across America Radio. So until then, thanks for listening.
The Welcome Home podcast is brought to you by Willing Warriors, a nonprofit organization serving active duty service members and veterans since 2012. To learn more, please visit our webpage at willingwarriors.org.